All right, Thrashers. So this video I'm going to dedicate to beginners getting into thrash. So this is like a beginner's guide to thrash metal. I kind of had this idea. I had one commenter that commented on my Canadian thrash video, like my personal big four of Canadian thrash, and he said he's just venturing into bands past like Metallica and Megadeth. And you know what? This video is for people like you that are looking to branch out. And also, if Jonathan Guerra, if you're watching, this might be a good video. I'm not saying you're a beginner, but I'm going to talk about a lot of bands here that are pretty well known, pretty common, pretty important. I'm not going to talk about every thrash band there ever was or anything, or everything that I own, or everything from every country, because there's some countries that have some, like, like Poland, for instance, has a couple of great bands like Turbo and Cat. Yeah, K-A-T, Cat. It means executioner in Polish, I guess. I looked it up. Destroyers. These are all bands nobody really knows, but every country has them. I'm still just... One commenter told me there's this band in Argentina called... shoot, I already forgot what it was. It starts with an H, and I looked it up, and it's like awesome. So, and I've got all their CDs in my eBay cart. I'm gonna buy them. So, yeah, this is just more of a to get you going sort of thing. So, okay, let's start with the obvious. Okay, so to start with the basics about thrash, there's something called the Big Four of thrash. So if Metallica and Megadeth are all you know, those are half of the Big Four. And of course, like A Must, Master of Puppets, Rust in Peace. These are great albums to start off with. If you've never really purchased anything from either band, those are... You're going to get into those, okay? If you don't like those, you're probably not going to like thrash much. So... then there's Slayer. This isn't my personal favorite Slayer album, but Rain and Blood is one that usually you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. And this is pretty much Slayer in a nutshell. Fast, chaotic. It's not my favorite Slayer album. I think Show No Mercy supersedes this by a lot, but it is good. A good way to get into them. Anthrax. Not my personal favorite Anthrax album. I like Spreading the Disease, but this is like technically probably their thrashiest album and probably their most popular album. Just like that's the most popular Slayer album, this is the most popular Anthrax album. And rightfully so. I get it. It's really thrashy, good riffs. I mean, you got some classic songs on it like Cotton and Mosh, Indians, to name a few. Very, very fun album. Now, those are the Big Four, okay? Now there's something I call the Big Three that's outside of the Big Four. These three bands are argued that they should be in the Big Four, or if there was a Big Five, there would be one of these bands should be lumped in there too. Like, hard to explain. So basically, there's a Big Four. That's a real thing. There is no real Big Three. That's just something I invented. And the Big Three... Hopefully I didn't mix up all these CDs, so I gotta go look through them. And I did, but it's okay. Okay. The Big Three. Testament. Okay, the New Order... The Legacy's my favorite, but the production sucks. This production's a little better. It's still not great. But this album pretty much sums up with what, like, 80s Testament is. I think this one will pull you in probably a little easier than the Legacy if you're not used to really horrible productions, okay? But this is a good thrashy album. Great guitar work, great solos with Alex Skolnick. One of the best lead guitarists ever. And You know, if you like Metallica, some people say Testament was Metallica copies. That's not true. They don't really sound. There's some Metallica isms in Testament, like Chuck Billy, the singer, kind of sings in a Hetfield type of manner, but they're totally different. Like, but if you like Metallica, try Testament. Seriously. Overkill, definitely a great band. This is some New York thrash here. Or wait, the New York or New Jersey? I think they're New York. I don't know. They're East Coast. I don't know. This is a great band. Not my favorite album. My favorite album is always the one that a lot of people seem to not agree with. My favorite is Under the Influence. I think that's their best album, but this is probably one of their most popular among thrashers, The Years of Decay. And rightfully so. Good, tight, heavy production, you know, really in your face type of sound. Pretty much sums up what Overkill is. Who would I compare it to? Well, they got a clean vocalist, kind of like Anthrax. I should have mentioned, you know, there's thrash that has harsh vocals, thrash that has clean vocals. Overkill's one of the clean ones, but don't let that turn you away. I remember the first time I heard Anthrax, I didn't love the vocals because I was more into that James Hetfield type of rasp. But now, that personally, I would say Overkill, to me, is a bit better than Anthrax. So I would probably check out Overkill, probably over Anthrax, if you want to listen to a thrash band with clean vocals. But there's that. This one, Exodus, very, very important band. Matter of fact, Kirk Hammett from Metallica, the lead guitarist of Metallica, played for Exodus for a short time before Metallica. So that's in, and there's some people that's argued who really invented thrash metal. Who was the first? I've heard rumors that Exodus was doing this stuff kind of behind the scenes before, you know, the Big Four and Metallica and stuff was doing it. I don't know. I don't really know the real answer. Does anyone know the real answer? I don't know. It's kind of the he said, she said thing. So, but Exodus is very important. Personally, and I ain't making many fans with this, but Exodus was never one of my top favorite bands as far as thrash, you know, thrash goes. And I don't know what it is. It's like they kind of got the heavy chunkiness of like Metallica, but without like the really good melodies and stuff. I don't know. But this album right here is my favorite. This album's amazing. Bonded by Blood. This is their first album. For me, it's the Exodus album, but that's just me. Yeah, I would say this is a good way to start, okay? Like, seriously. Okay, that's the big three. Now, I'm going to continue with some other American thrash bands, because since we're, you know, talking about American bands right now, and I'm not saying this because I'm American. I do think American thrash ultimately has the best bands and the most bands as far as thrash genre goes. Now, other genres, I would say something else. Power metal, I would give to Germany. Heavy metal, I would give to the UK. I feel like different countries kind of did things, have something they excelled in the most. But the US, thrash metal for sure. I mean, we got other good things too, but thrash metal, man. We did really well with thrash metal. Okay. Some bands that's outside the big four and the big three. Forbidden. Really good thrash. I would say this is probably their biggest classic. Forbidden Evil. I don't really know what you'd call this. Not really a clean singer, but he does kind of sing a little more than just shout and bark out lyrics. So, and good blend of thrash and some melodic stuff that's thrown in there too. It's a good mixed bag. So that's Forbidden. Just threw my guitar pick. Uh, Heathen is another good band. Uh, Personally, I favor the latest Heathen album that came out in the 2000s. They came back and did a third album. I believe that's all they had was three. Yeah, it should be. I think that's their best work. It sounds like old school Heathen, but just at their best. Um, this is their second album, Victim of Deception. Yeah, Victims of Deception. It tries to be like an Injustice for All type of album. There's some tracks on there that start off really, really good, and I love. I just think it kind of falls a little short, but you might like this a lot. I don't know, but Heathen's a good thrash band. Um, Atrophy, you know, this band was. I remember when I first discovered this band, I was pretty excited. Like I thought they were pretty obscure and. I don't know. I just like, yeah, I know Atrophy. Do you know Atrophy? I mean, it's just dumb. But this is their second album. Violent by Nature. Some harsh, like harsh thrash vocals, not gutturals or anything, but just raspy vocals. Very, very fast, thrashy guitar work. A little bit of melody built in there. Another good choice. Flotsam and Jetsam. This could almost be in the big three. Jason Newsted, who played bass for Metallica. He actually, before Metallica, he played for Flotsam and Jetsam. As a matter of fact, he played bass on this album, Doomsday for the Deceiver. Very good, almost speed metal at times, but it's it also has a really, really clean singer that hits some really high notes. But this, I think you'll like it though, even if you're more into like Metallica type vocals. I think the music here will suck you in if you're not into clean vocals. Try it out. It's a good band. Now we're getting into the really crazy territory again. Nuclear Assault. This band is really just your noisy, obnoxious thrash, kind of like Slayer, but they don't really sound like Slayer, but they're pretty much just as crazy and chaotic. Really raspy, like high-pitched vocals, just frantic guitar riffs. Just, I don't know. That's pretty much Nuclear Assault, but if you like it really thrashy, good choice. Another crazy one, Dark Angel, Darkness Descends. There's some people that consider this like the best thrash album ever made. I don't think so, but I think it is pretty good though. The production is probably the biggest problem. It's really hard to hear a lot of the stuff on here, but it is. But if you can get past that, it'll definitely make you bang your head. So that's another good choice. Oh, and Gene Hoglan is a pretty famous metal drummer. Played on this. He's like playing with Testament and stuff now, so it's pretty notable. All right, so that's some American thrash. Okay. Now we'll go to Germany. A lot of people like the German thrash a lot. The German thrash is usually more harsh, almost pushing death metal at times. I always kind of said the German thrash was never my top favorite, but good nevertheless. First Creator, Extreme Aggression, great album to start with. The title says it all. It's pretty aggressive. They're very riffy. They got a lot of crazy riffs and a lot of notes in their riffs. I wouldn't say they're technical for the sake of technical, but they're pretty mean riff people. I'll say that. And they got some pretty harsh vocals, usually kind of like more of a high pitch, harsh type of vocals, almost like pushing like a black metal voice, but not really. A good band though. This is probably a good medium for what Creator did and does. Destruction. This band's also very riffy, very technical at times. They weren't really trying to be a technical thrash band, but later on they kind of did start getting into technical stuff on purpose. I didn't really know what album to pick. I personally, Destruction's one of those bands I'd never, to me, have never really come out with a masterpiece that's like, yeah, that album. I don't know what I would pick. So this one pretty much does embody pretty well what Destruction is. And let me look at that album cover. It's freaking nuts. But that's kind of what the music sounds like, in my opinion. The riffs are crazy. We got some more like really raspy, nasty, high-pitched type of shrieking vocals. But again, really, really good guitar work and stuff. And the production here, it's not amazing, but it kind of has a better production than some of their older stuff. So that's why I would pick this. Yeah, that's Destruction. Sodom, another popular band. This album's called Agent Orange. This one probably has the best, it has a more bold production. It probably sounds like one of their better albums out of their 80s stuff. Very, very fast. Not real technical. I always thought Sodom was a little more on the simplistic side, but they get the point across. They're very fast, heavy. Vocals are a little bit lower and raspy, a little less dynamic than like Tom Araya from Slayer, but I don't know. But good, nevertheless. Tankard. This is like Germany's Anthrax, okay, but a lot better in my opinion. Well, I don't know. It depends. These guys thrash as hard as Slayer, but they're a little more goofy. I mean, I wouldn't say they're like a goofy band, but they can be sort of goofy. A lot of their lyrics, their theme is being a bunch of alcoholics, okay? Like, that's like their theme. And as you can see, this album's called The Morning After, Guy with a Hangover, This is my favorite Tankard album. But don't let the goofy thing bother you. There's a couple tracks that are a little goofy, but it's really, really good thrash metal. And with kind of a high-pitch, raspy type of singer. Very good stuff. I'll go to... let's see here. I probably should have grabbed some more Canadian thrash, but I'm just going to talk about the two, biggest ones. One of my top favorites of all time. Seriously, maybe actually, I do kind of consider them my favorite thrash band. Annihilator. Now, they might not be yours. I don't know. I feel like Annihilator's kind of it's not for everybody. They're very technical. I wouldn't call them purposely technical thrash, because there is a genre for that. But these guys are technical. The guitarist, Jeff Waters, just is a guitar wizard. And that's just how the songs are. This album's probably their most famous. It's their first one. It's called Alice in Hell. I don't know. I don't know what to say other than it's, if you're not really into crazy guitar work, you might not find this as good. But these songs are very thrashy and fun, in my opinion. They've had a lot of lineup changes, but this, they've got kind of a raspy singer on here that's ran by the name of Randy Rampage, and I don't know. I love Annihilator, but they're a pretty important band in Canada. Another one, if you want something that rivals Slayer and, or Creator or anything like that in intensity, freaking go to Razor. These guys do it without trying to sound like they're trying to be evil or anything like that. These guys are just brutal thrash. You can just tell by the album cover. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's like a bloody chainsaw wrapped in barbed wire hitting your eardrums. This is probably the biggest, most famous Razor album, and rightfully so. My favorite's actually Evil Invaders. but this one's really, really good. Like, this is one you really should go to. And speaking of Annihilator, my favorite album is actually Never Neverland, their second album. But this one seems to be talked more about in the thrash community. But we'll just talk about a few more things here. The UK, the Brits, they have their own thrash bands. I haven't discovered as many UK thrash bands as I have other countries, but probably the best, Eccentrics. It's how I guess yours have. I used to call it Eccentrics. It's just Eccentrics, I think. Their first two albums for sure are like their best, you know, the most popular. This one's called For Whose Advantage. If you like Metallica and Justice for All, but maybe a little more technical with the riffs and a little less like proggy, you know, like more songs that are like shorter instead of like 8-minute songs, here you go. This band's right up your alley. You got a vocalist that's very similar to like a James Hetfield type of raspy vocal. You don't sound exactly like him, but the style is very similar. You know, I wouldn't say these guys sound exactly like Metallica, but you know, you can definitely hear there's almost like a big influence there, but it's pretty good stuff. They got their own Anthrax, Acid Rain. This album cover looks really stupid. I always thought this wouldn't be that good, but it's actually pretty fun. It's really crazy stuff, actually, but with kind of a more cleaner type of singer, but very, very similar to something like Anthrax. And here's a band I haven't listened to in a while, but they are pretty good. DAM or DAM or I don't know. I don't know. But this album's called Inside Out. It's pretty good. Oh, and by the way, this album's called The Fear. And these guys are pretty goofy. They got like one EP or something called like Moshkenstein. Yeah, I don't know. I'm about to the end of this. One last country I'll just give an honorable mention to, because they're a pretty popular band among thrashers. Sepultura. They're from Brazil. They started off as thrash. They almost pushed the limits of even being death metal, but they're not really death metal. And then they kind of in the 90s they started doing like this tribal metal thing that some people like, some people hate. I'm not really into it. But this is a rise. Their fourth album, pretty popular album by them. This and Beneath the Remains I would recommend. Okay, I'm starting to lose my freaking voice now. So again, there are more U.S. thrash bands. There's more thrash bands around the world. I'd love to go to Finland and talk about the band Stone, one of my top favorite thrash bands. I probably should have grabbed it. I did a video on them, so look that up. You know, like I said, Poland's got some good bands. Heck, even the Australians have some good bands. I probably should have talked about Mortal Sin and Hobbs Angel of Death, but it goes on and on, guys. So, like, there's thrash bands that I've not even discovered yet. I mean, there's so many out there, but these right here are most of them are pretty big bands that they'll get you started. Once you get started with this, you keep the ball rolling and you'll find more. The more you find, the more it is easier to find other bands. So, but anyway, hopefully that helps you get started on your thrash journey. It never ends. So if you like this video, like, subscribe. Till next time, guys, stay metal.